A very good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon, Michael. Good afternoon, Nita. So, this will be the last lecture for our session, and nothing much left, just muscle adaptation, how it affects your muscles, and that's it. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. So, starting with the final lecture of our syllabus, muscle adaptations. So, what is muscle adaptation basically? Adaptation means to change, ability to change. So coming to the first slide that tells about what it is. So basically, muscle adaptation is ability to change. How you change, and this is the body part in our system, muscle basically, which has maximum ability to adapt, and it keeps on adapting throughout your life. It is perhaps the most mutable of all biological tissues. Mutable का मतलब है adaptable. It can change its composition, it can change its length, it can change its appearance. You can see that muscles. So person can be throughout the if a person keeps on changing the way he lives, in some phase of time he's very active, then his body build will be very nice, then he becomes less active, muscle mass goes down. So again when he again starts the workouts, again he becomes very fit. So what is happening? This is all adaptation. Muscles are adapting to your way of life. So muscle is the only tissue in our system which is the most mutatable. Mutatable means most, which has most ability to get changed according to the way you treat it. जैसे भी आपका lifestyle है, according to that it will keep on changing. So this is all about muscle adaptation. Now what happens actually at biomechanical level? When you adapt to something, it changes your mechanical properties like strength, explosiveness, ability to generate force. So that will also get affected when you have some adaptation in your muscle. If you're doing very heavy workouts, then your muscles are adapted to rapid force of development. So they are more powerful. They have more strength. So in this way, when muscle adaptation happens, their composition changes, and when their composition changes, types of muscle fiber changes, transition happens, that will lead to change in their biomechanical properties. So this is all about. Yeah, two of them principles are, two of them are all old one is your action and reaction. So it is the same principle which I have just told you the new ones, the new concept which you don't know, which you don't know. Rest are same. Okay. So changes in mechanical property resulting from changes in the demands placed on the muscles. So as you change your activity, as you change your the way you live, your mechanical properties, the muscles get adapted. Okay. So the main changes leading to muscle adaptation include, what are the main changes? So the main changes in the muscle include, which actually leads to affect your build and all that, are muscle length and muscle activity. These are the main key to uh, terms which will actually change the composition of your muscles, and we call it as adaptation. Now coming to the muscle adaptations in sports, how sports will get affected. So in sports, what we have in sports, we have basically the muscular system can be mechanically or metabolically overloaded. So during training, you basically, what you do, you overload your muscles, and when you overload your muscles, only then you will adapt your muscles to more strength. If there is no overloading, then there is no increase in performance or increase or change in the biomechanical properties of your muscles. So overloading is must. And one thing you always keep in mind, overloading doesn't mean that you extend to that level that you land with injury. So it is very crucial to decide what is your best option for overloading. That will be decided by your biomechanical properties with your testing and with your strength and training coach. Okay, that will decide that which kind of overloads could be there, or 3D motion analysis will help definitely. Just make a movement, and then you can predict how much load you can bear for increasing your performance. So these mechanisms result in specific and different adaptation that ultimately enhances your performance. The magnitude of these adaptations are dependent upon now how you are going to enhance your performance by these. So these could be changed by the type of exercise you do. You are doing resistance training, that will help in building muscles. Ultimately, you will also build strength when you build muscles, but the aim of resistance training is to build muscles. Okay, then we have strength training, which will increase your strength. You have already good body and you want to strengthen them. Strengthening in biomechanical terms means increasing cross sectional area of your muscle fibers, means so that your the basic unit of muscle is that sarcomere. So if you increase the cross section area of your muscle fibers, that means you will have more number of cross linkings, and when you have more number of cross linkings, that ultimately means more contractile force. So in this way, different type of exercises can give you different adaptations. Depending your aim, you can choose that. Then intensity also matters, how intensely you have to perform a particular exercise to gain your muscle mass or improve your performance. Good afternoon, Dinesh. Then frequency of exercise, repetition, number of repetition. So 1 RM you all know, repetition maximum. So the maximum load which you can take while one repetition. And this is very crucial. The maximum load is which you can do when you are in the full form. Okay, so 1 RM. So the frequency will be decided by your 1 RM ability. 1 RM is repetition maximum. The maximum load which you can take, the maximum weight which you can hold for a one repetition is known as 1 RM. So it will be decided by that. And the duration of exercises, your stamina. So all these factors will help you to adapt your muscles according to your needs. Okay. Now how it is done? The simple mechanism, if a muscle is stressed within a tolerable limits, within your 1 RM maximum, one repetition maximum limit. So then it adapts and improves your function. Okay, this is the key principle for positive muscle adaptation in the sports. For example, weightlifter exercise their arms and shoulders, so their muscle hypertrophy. Muscle hypertrophy is increase in muscle mass basically, and improves their strength. So the principle, the main idea how to perform to do this positive adaptation in sports is to do weightlifting, to do workouts within your tolerable limits, which means that the one which you can do with your full effort without causing injury, and that will ultimately lead to your increase in your muscle mass, that is known as muscle hypertrophy, and it will improve your strength. Larger muscle allow them to accommodate an increased load. So as you build your muscles, your these abilities grow. So you have to accordingly modify your workouts to further strengthen yourself. But always keep in mind that you should not cross limits, your tolerable limits, because that can lead to injury. So likewise, if a muscle receive less stress, now it is the opposite point, last one. So when muscle receive less stress than it is used to, for example, you are used to carry 100 kg weights, and then suddenly after some time you start picking up 70-80 kgs. So you are now giving less stress to your muscle, and your muscle are adapted to 100 kg. So in that case, opposite will happen, and this theory is known as the disuse theory. So again, see the adaptation. If you stop working out on higher weights and start using lower weights, just if you want that, so that will lead to decline in your muscle mass, and this is known as disuse theory. When you are not utilizing your full potential, you are giving less stress to your muscles, that will cause atrophies, Hypertrophy कब होगी? When you gain muscle mass, and when you lose muscle mass, that is known as atrophies. For example, the muscles of castle leg atrophy in response to disuse. Okay. Now, please consider the last point. If the stress is not sufficient to overload the body, then no adaptation occurs. So this is a summary. So overloading is very important, but it should be within limit. Now, second part, if a stress cannot be tolerated, then injury or overtraining can happen. So always keep, you have to be in a very specific point. You have to be at very specific point. The point should be maximum which you can handle, and it should not be beyond where you can get injury. So it should be very specific. And to get that point, there are multiple ways. Simple one is your 1 RM. When you try to do repetitions with increasing weights, and it should be done with a very experienced coach with you, and with the support of your staff with somebody, so that you can't land with your injury. And if you use technology, then you can use 3D motion analysis and all that biomechanical tools to assess your maximum overloading capacity. So in this way, biomechanics can help you to adapt safely to your limits. Okay. Now, what kind of changes happen inside the muscle when you do these changes? When you do different activities on your body, how the muscles gets adapted? So that this slide will tell you. So if you are doing more of lengthening, eccentric contraction exercises and during the workouts, if you're doing more of that, so that adaptance will lead to increased protein synthesis in your muscles, and that will ultimately leads to additional sarcomeres. Sarcomere is functional unit of your muscle. So in this case, muscle hypertrophy along with the increase in peak contractile force will happen ultimately. Okay, so this is the first thing which will happen, increase in protein synthesis, and along with production of more number of sarcomeres. Second point, changes in mRNA consistent with transition from type 2 to type 1. So what is mRNA? This is your basically genetic thing if you know molecular biology. So that is not your area. So basically, second point tells that transition happens at your cellular level. uh, in your muscle fiber transition happens. So when you do more of eccentric workouts, then your type 2 muscles gets converted to more of type 1 fibers, and type 1 fibers are good for endurance, so this kind of transition happens during this adaptation. And please consider the last point. Changes appear to depend upon the muscle fiber type, composition, and its functions. Whatever changes is appearing, it depends upon the muscle fiber type and composition and its function, and also the muscle, because this is not a universal law key. If you are doing that, it is happening most of the cases, but you always keep in mind some muscles do not follow that. So there are some exceptions, like fingers, muscles in the fingers, they don't perform some of the things which I have told you yesterday. So always keep in this point always in mind. But overall, what will happen when you do that eccentric contraction in most of the muscles? Protein synthesis will increase. Your sarcomeres will be more in number, and that will leads to increase in muscle mass and increase contractile force. Okay. Now, when you do more of concentric contractions, shortening of muscles, so what will happen? So when you do more of shortening, then that will leads to acceleration in atrophy. See the difference. So what this means, you will lose your muscle mass, you will lose sarcomeres when you do excess of shortening, concentric contractions, and transition will be towards type 2 fibers. Now you, if you do more of shortening, concentric contractions, then you will have more of type 2 fibers that produce rapid. RFD is rapid in type 2, but they get fatigued also very fast. So you will lose endurance. And here also, these responses are different in different muscles. So this you have to always keep in mind, that different exceptions are always there in each principle. Okay. Now, coming to the sports relevance. So the postural abnormalities in athletes leads to prolonged lengthening of some muscles or prolonged shortening of some muscles. When you have some problem in your posture biomechanically, just focus on the figure. The left hand side guy has some posture problem, and these are due to bad habits, or from sometimes initially, or you have some kind of adaptation to wrong posture. So that wrong postures leads to unnecessary prolonged lengthening of some muscles or shortening of some muscles. So these abnormal postures produces change in muscle strength in both of these. Now where prolonged lengthening is there, that will become more in strength, and on the other hand where there is more of the shortening, that will lose strength. So that will basically ultimately disturb your body balance. You can't, you know you can't perform well when you are not balanced. Some of the muscles are which is not required to be strengthy, they will become strength here otherwise. And the muscle where you require strength, they are weak. So in this way you cannot perform well if this kind of things happen. So postural abnormality, the abnormalities in the posture will lead to bad adaptations, and you should avoid that. Okay. Now, muscle adaptations and activity. So now we will focus on the activity part. So these were the workouts which are focusing on the lengthening or shortening. Now overall activity, how activity leads to changes in your muscle adaptations. So increased activity results in hypertrophy. The thing is same. When you are having you are very active physically, that will leads to hypertrophy. That means increase in muscle mass, increase force production. And on the other hand, opposite is also true. If you have decline in your activity, that will lead to decline in your muscle mass and weakness in force production. So this is the first point. Coming to the second point, resistance exercises and strengthening exercises. So these are the two different kind of workouts. So resistance workouts are the one which will provide you muscle hypertrophy. And resistance training includes uh, training against your own body weight using free weights and using string, rubber bands training, all that. So all kind of resistance training will leads to increase in your muscle mass. Now you will say strength, and ultimately when you have increased muscle mass, you will ultimately get strength also. So you will say, what is the idea of using different terms? So this I will clear right now here. The resistance training is basically mainly focused to build your muscles. So this is the main aim of resistance training: build your muscle mass. So when you get muscle mass, automatically strength will come to you. So but that was not the aim in resistance training. On the other hand, when you do strength training involves lifting of heavy weights. That will basically increase your cross sectional areas in your muscle fibers. So that is not meant for building muscles, that is meant for strengthening your muscles. So that is the difference. So this is the key difference between the resistance exercise and the strength exercise. Resistance exercise will give you strength also at the end, but the aim is to build muscles. On the other hand, strength training has aim to strengthen your muscle, not to build your muscle. So strengthening what? Increasing your cross sectional areas. So that is the thing. So and the type 2 fibers are more get focused when you do strength training to increase their CSA. This is all about activity. Now, on the other hand, if you decrease your activities, so that will lead to decline in your CSA, cross sectional areas of your muscles. Okay. Again, there will be transition from type 1 to type 2 fibers because they get fatigue easily. And the last point again, response is muscle specific again. So this you have to always keep in mind. One example I have given for this principle of disuse theory. So one a study in a recent past has reported that 26% loss in plantar flexion strength happened when a athlete was on bed for 5 weeks, but no loss was observed in dorsiflexion strength. So you can see the difference, and that and the muscles involved in dorsiflexion, they were same They have no effect of disuse. On the other hand, plantar flexion muscles got loss in strength. So this is the thing, just an example to show you that how these things varies. Now the last concept in this is your aging part. So aging is the ultimate, everybody have to age. So when you age, then there is decline in your muscle strength. So that happens automatically. With age you lose your muscle mass, and that will lead to decrease in your active motor units, decrease in your muscle mass, decrease in your type 2 fibers, and that will give you weakness. And this is also a kind of adaptation which you have to face, but you can prevent that to some extent, that I'll discuss in the last slide. So as in the adaptation of muscles described above, changes in the muscle with age vary across muscles. Now there are multiple muscles in the body. Some muscles doesn't get affected, some gets affected. So the age-related loss of muscle function is technologically, in the terms we call it as sarcopenia. So sarcopenia usually happens after 75 or 80. So there are no fixed age, but it depends on the how person's lifestyle is. So physically inactive can lose, and in this loss of muscle mass also happens in physically active person also. So and it starts usually after age of 30. And if you are active, still you have some muscle loss, and the percentage is 3 to 5%. It varies according to your activity. Some will have more, some will have less. So but it happens. But sarcopenia happens at the age of 75, and after that it can go beyond up to 80 also, depending upon different persons. So it is not a fixed age. So it is that this is the range. After 75 to 80 you'll have it. And if you have some disease, then you can have it at 65 or 70 also. And how to prevent that? Resistance training properly monitored means you should have some biomechanist or some trained person who knows these things. So under supervision of that person you can perform resistance training, and that can help you to build your neuromuscular system so that you can delay this process and adapt your muscles in a positive way, so that to prevent sarcopenia at later stages. But it will going to happen, but you can have manage it if you do some kind of properly monitor resistance training. And this is the last slide where I have shown you the normal muscle. So this is on the left side, you have cross section of normal muscle. There you can see the muscle fiber bundles. So when you do inactive, when you are inactive, then this atrophy happens, loss of muscle mass. But it can be again go back to that area when you do active workouts. And on the third part you will see the aging effect when you have loss of cells due to sarcopenia. So this is the slide to summarize all these adaptations. And on the last slide you will see a report regarding prevention of sarcopenia. A recent meta-analysis paper published in Medicine and Sciences in Sports and Exercise. He has reviewed 49 studies of men between the age of 50 to 83 who did PRT. PRT means progressive resistance training, and found that these person gained 2.4 pound of lean body mass. So nothing is impossible if you do in a biomechanical correct way. So adaptations can also, you can modulate according to your needs if you do it correctly in the later stages of your life. So that is a message from this slide. So that's it all about. Now we have finished our syllabus. Thank you very much. Thank you.